Morning light spilled unevenly through the blinds of St. Mercy Hospital, cutting pale stripes across the polished floors. The hum of machines filled the silence, and the faint smell of antiseptic lingered like a warning. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious to the storm brewing inside. Elena Karev lay motionless, her body betraying her, yet her mind was anything but still. She had memorized every footstep, every shift change, every whisper and murmur from the past nights. Margaret's death replayed endlessly, a film no one else had seen. Every pause, every injection, every misstep of Dr. Arman etched indelibly in her memory. Sofia Malik, the young nurse, entered quietly, clipboard in hand. Her eyes darted instinctively to the IV line, then to the subtle twitch of Elena's fingers. "I see you," she whispered. Elena blinked once, twice. Her faint nod was deliberate. It was enough. Sofia's mind raced. She was trained to follow procedure, to obey protocol, to respect hierarchy. But what she saw defied everything her training had prepared her for. Something dangerous, deliberate, and calculated had occurred, and it had been witnessed. Meanwhile, Dr. Arman reviewed the patient logs in his office, unaware that the chessboard was shifting. Every sheet of paper, every digital record meticulously organized, hiding his orchestration. He sipped his coffee calmly, eyes scanning the monitors with predatory focus. He did not suspect Elena, not yet. Outside room 308, the hospital corridors pulsed with ordinary life. Janitors pushing carts, interns hurrying with charts, doctors conferring in hushed tones. Normalcy carefully maintained. But within the walls of Elena's room, a silent war had begun. "Your mind is your weapon," Sofia said softly, kneeling beside the bed. "Tell me what I need to see." Elena's hand trembled. She tried to move it slightly, a subtle twitch she had been practicing for days. Sofia leaned closer, eyes wide, heart racing. This wasn't a reflex, it was intention. "Okay," Sofia whispered, "I'm with you." The alliance was fragile, built on desperation and trust that had never existed before, but it was enough. Across the hospital, Dr. Arman made his next calculated move. Another patient needed monitoring. Another sedative, another control over perception. He was meticulous, precise, untouchable, until he misjudged one small thing. Human observation. The surveillance cameras, supposedly flawless, had a blind spot Elena had memorized. Sofia had noticed. Together they began cataloging every detail, every discrepancy, every unaccounted moment. Outside the hospital walls, Evelyn Whitmore's private investigation advanced. She had hired discreet agents to trace funds, communications, and unusual interactions. Her instincts told her Daniel Whitmore's calm demeanor hid something. Every delayed response, every subtle hesitation in meetings with lawyers or advisors now made sense. Inside room 308, Elena forced her mind to visualize Margaret's last moments, the exact sequence, the subtle delay of the doctor's hand. Sofia watched, taking notes, committing to memory, her own heart pounding at the enormity of what they might uncover. Dr. Arman returned to check vitals, unaware that the patient he assumed compliant was not only alert but cataloging everything in silence. "You're awake," he murmured. His eyes studied her carefully, searching for any signs of incoherence. Elena's gaze remained steady. Her mind raced. This was a test. Every twitch, every blink, every reaction mattered. "You'll need rest," he continued. "The body heals best under calm conditions." Rest. The word had become a weapon, a tool of control, but Elena refused. She could not rest, not when the truth was so close. Hours later in the hospital library, Sofia reviewed the surveillance logs she had copied secretly. The missing 6-minute gap during Margaret's death had not been an accident. It had been planned, deliberate. "The blind spots," she muttered. "He thinks he's untouchable, but there's a pattern." Elena, through careful blinking and micro-movements, confirmed what Sofia suspected. The doctor's rhythm, his exact timing, the predictable pause before interventions, it was all a signature. "Signature?" Sofia whispered. "Like a calling card?" Elena blinked once. "Yes." Outside, the city continued, oblivious. Hospitals are microcosms of control, every life a variable. And tonight, in this silent war, two forces began converging: observation and strategy, truth and power. By evening, the first pieces of tangible proof had been laid. Surveillance gaps, unusual injections, timing discrepancies. Sofia and Elena began compiling a dossier, every small detail a weapon. every document a potential hammer to shatter the doctor's perfect facade. The storm was coming, and it would not be gentle. Fade out. Even the most untouchable predators falter when the silent witness finds her voice. Night had settled over St. Mercy, blanketing corridors in muted shadows. Machines hummed in rhythmic monotony, masking the tension quietly brewing in room 308. Elena's body lay still, her paralysis a cage, but her mind moved faster than any observer could imagine. Sofia Malik sat in the corner, clipboard forgotten. She had spent hours piecing together gaps in surveillance footage, inconsistencies in patient logs, and the timing of Dr. Arman's suspicious behavior. Now, with Elena's subtle signals confirming every suspicion, she realized they had the beginnings of a plan. The first strike was psychological. They needed to test the doctor, to see if his calm could waver. "Blink twice if you understand," Sofia whispered. Elena obeyed, the tiniest movement of her eyelids. The plan was simple: expose a flaw, even a microscopic one, force him to make a mistake. Meanwhile, Dr. Arman returned, clipboard in hand, mask of professionalism perfectly in place. He approached Elena's bed with deliberate care. "You're restless," he said softly, adjusting the IV. "We need to keep you sedated. Stress interferes with recovery." Elena's fingers twitched slightly. Sofia noticed. A micro-movement, a signal, confirmation that the mind could still resist. "You'll understand soon enough," the doctor whispered under his breath as if speaking to no one. Hours passed. Each moment was tense. Every small sound, the squeak of a cart, a distant phone ring, heightened alertness. Then the subtle tremor of a door opening. The nurse who usually worked nights entered, unaware of the silent exchange taking place. Sofia leaned in close. "We need more evidence," she whispered. The next morning, Dr. Arman made his move. Another injection, subtle enough to appear standard, yet potent enough to keep Elena compliant if she faltered. Sofia noticed the slight discrepancy in the dosage chart. "That's not right," she murmured under her breath. Elena's fingers twitched in response. Confirmation: the doctor had slipped even slightly. This was the first strike. Outside, Evelyn Whitmore's private investigators had discovered another irregularity. Bank statements showed large transfers coinciding with the days of Margaret's medical treatments. Consulting fees, research grants, and vague payments to a shell company. Everything pointed to premeditation and financial manipulation. Inside room 308, Elena forced herself to remember every detail. The angle of the syringe, the timing, the subtle hesitation in the doctor's steps before the fatal injection. Each memory was ammunition. Sofia had begun compiling these fragments into a cohesive file. Every note, every observation, every tiny anomaly recorded meticulously. That evening, Dr. Arman stopped by unexpectedly, his presence sudden and precise. His calm was almost unbearable, suffocating in its perfection. "You're alert tonight," he said. His gaze lingered. "Good, mental clarity is important." Elena's heart raced. He didn't know that she was compiling evidence, that every blink, every twitch was being interpreted and documented. Sofia whispered, "You have to hold on, just one more step." A shadow moved in the hallway. Another nurse glanced briefly into the room, then continued down the corridor. Timing, observation, precision, every detail mattered. Dr. Arman adjusted Elena's bed, leaning close. "We must ensure everything is stable," he said softly. "You wouldn't want any complications." Sofia's mind screamed. Complications? He knew they were onto him. He was testing them. The night stretched. Long, tense, every second a battle of wills. Elena forced herself to remain conscious, aware. Sofia monitored every subtle change, eye movement, hand tremor, breathing pattern. Then, a breakthrough. A small container left unattended during rounds revealed a clue. Labels misaligned, handwriting slightly different than standard charts. Sofia noted the anomaly. The tiniest deviation could be traced. Elena blinked twice. Yes. The first strike was no longer theoretical. They had tangible evidence. And the silent war had officially begun. Outside, the city continued, oblivious. Inside, a paralyzed woman and a determined nurse had ignited a chain of events that even the most meticulous predator could not fully control. The final thought before fade: even the most calculated plans crack under human observation. When the hunted learns to fight back, the predator becomes vulnerable. Dr. Arman had always been precise. Every step calculated, every glance measured, every motion rehearsed in his mind like a flawless script. He thrived on control, the delicate ballet of life and death he performed daily. But now the rhythm felt off. It started subtly. A hesitation in Elena's eyes, a twitch in her finger that shouldn't have been there, a nurse who observed too much, remembered too much. Small cracks, invisible to anyone else but glaring to someone who lived in control. He leaned over Elena's bed, adjusting her IV, the liquid running smoothly. "Relax, sleep is your ally," he said softly. But there was an edge beneath the smooth voice, a test, a warning. Elena's gaze locked onto his, piercing through the haze of sedatives. Her mind screamed, "I saw it all." She couldn't move her limbs freely, but her consciousness was sharper than ever. Every detail stored, every moment catalogued. Sofia observed from the corner, clipboard held tight. Her heart thudded as she realized Dr. Arman was watching her as much as Elena. The predator could sense attention, suspicion, awareness. And that made him dangerous. The hospital corridors were quiet, but the tension hummed like electricity. Elena blinked twice. Sofia leaned in, whispering, "We need to escalate carefully." One wrong move and her voice trailed off. Dr. Arman noticed their subtle communication. A micro-expression flitted across his face, a twitch of impatience, quickly masked by his professional calm. He decided to act, not with violence yet, but with control. Later that evening, he requested a private consultation for Elena under the guise of a routine check. Alone, he approached the bedside with a syringe in hand. "You've been resisting," he murmured, voice velvet smooth. "We can make this easier. Just relax, let the medicine do its work." Elena's chest tightened. Every fiber of her being screamed. She couldn't move her legs, but her mind raced. She had memorized every injection, every dose, every subtle change in heart rate Margaret had exhibited. She knew the pattern and she knew the danger. Sofia stepped into the room quietly, pretending to check charts. Her eyes met Elena's, a micronod deliberate and strong. Sofia understood. Elena would endure, she would survive. Dr. Arman paused. He sensed their alliance forming. His eyes narrowed. Precision became paranoia. The perfect predator now doubted. Meanwhile, Evelyn Whitmore's investigation gained momentum. More anomalies surfaced. Financial transfers, unusual medical purchases, and unusual communications between the doctor and private contacts. Every discovery strengthened her suspicion. Margaret's death was not an accident. Inside the hospital, Dr. Arman made a critical error. He underestimated human resilience. Elena's mind was not sedated. Sofia's observations were meticulous. Together, they began to document patterns that even he could not erase. At night, Elena struggled with sedation, her consciousness battling the chemicals coursing through her veins. Every moment she remained alert was an act of defiance. She forced herself to memorize everything: the doctor's steps, his voice intonation, the subtle hesitation before he left the room. Sofia recorded the smallest details in her notebook. Times, patterns, anomalies, every line a potential key to unraveling the perfect plan. The psychological battle escalated. Dr. Arman began testing Elena with slight variations in routine, increasing sedatives, questioning inconsistencies. He tried to destabilize her mind, but Elena's awareness acted as a shield. She absorbed every tactic, cataloged every attempt. By the end of the night, both sides had claimed victories. Dr. Arman retained control of the hospital narrative. Elena retained control of the memory. Sofia became the conduit, the ally bridging the paralyzed witness and the outside world. The chessboard had shifted again. And now, the predator was beginning to sense something dangerous lurking in his prey. The final thought before fade: even a predator with perfect control can feel fear when the prey is awake, aware, and determined. When silence speaks, even the most untouchable can be undone. The hospital's fluorescent lights flickered faintly, echoing the tension in room 308. Elena lay still, her body heavy, but her mind was a razor-sharp observer. Every beat, every motion, every subtle pause by Dr. Arman was etched into her memory. She was no longer just a witness, she was the storm waiting to strike. Sofia entered quietly, carrying a small folder of compiled notes, photographs, and preliminary surveillance footage. Every detail confirmed what Elena had been signaling: the injections, the missing time logs, the manipulations. "We've got enough to start connecting dots," Sofia whispered. Her voice trembled slightly, but her eyes burned with determination. Elena's eyes blinked twice. Yes. Outside the hospital, Evelyn Whitmore had intensified her investigation. The web of financial transfers, shell companies, and consulting fees painted a clear picture. Margaret's death was orchestrated for control of the Whitmore estate. Every lead strengthened her resolve. She wasn't going to let Daniel or anyone else manipulate justice. Inside the ward, Dr. Arman's aura of control began to waver. He had sensed their alliance, even if he couldn't yet pinpoint the evidence. Small mistakes, subtle deviations from his plan, now exposed him in ways he hadn't anticipated. Sofia began a systematic documentation. Surveillance gaps during critical rounds, irregularities in medication administration, notes on the timing of injections, micromovements from Elena, confirming awareness. Every recorded detail was a thread. And every thread threatened to unravel the carefully constructed web Dr. Arman had relied on for months. That night, Dr. Arman approached Elena's bedside, his demeanor calm but eyes sharp, calculating. "You've been unusually alert tonight," he murmured, voice smooth yet edged. "Rest is important for recovery." Elena's mind raced. Every movement he made, every syllable, every subtle shift of his weight was an opportunity. She blinked once, deliberately signaling to Sofia. Sofia understood. He's slipping. Outside the room, a small commotion. A tray had been knocked over by another nurse. Dr. Arman's attention diverted briefly. A perfect opening. Sofia leaned closer, whispering instructions through the tiniest gestures. Elena's fingers twitched subtly, forming patterns they had rehearsed. The silent communication was flawless. Meanwhile, Evelyn's team had uncovered a critical piece of evidence. A discarded vial of suspicious medication from Dr. Arman's private storage. Fingerprints confirmed it matched his pattern, corroborating their suspicions. The clock was ticking and justice began to feel tangible. Back in room 308, the tension was palpable. Dr. Arman sensed the change. His control over Elena was weakening, his confidence threatened by a patient who refused to be passive and a nurse who had begun to challenge the system silently but effectively. Hours passed. Every glance, every pause, every microexpression was a test of nerve. Elena held firm. Sofia documented meticulously, and outside, Evelyn prepared for the legal leverage she would need. The storm was now in motion. The first cracks had appeared in the predator's meticulously polished facade. Elena's consciousness, combined with Sofia's vigilance, had begun to convert suspicion into evidence. And once evidence was concrete, nothing, no manipulation, no intimidation could fully contain it. The final thought before fade: a perfect predator becomes vulnerable the moment the silent witness awakens. When the shadows gather and the truth is ready to strike, even the untouchable will face the consequences.